Okay. Something big is happening. Something that we don't really foresee, I think, as normal Americans. Trump officials are now moving on military bases. We're going to discuss this story. This should be a lot bigger than it is, and it's not. What do they know that we don't know of why these people are moving out of their homes onto military bases? Wait till you hear this story. It's kind of unique. And it kind of makes us all say, you know what? Is there more to the story than this? We're going to discuss that. And then we're going to hear from an attorney, a renowned attorney that knows D.C. in and out. He says what you're seeing, what you're actually seeing, is the Republicans are winning, but sadly they're dismantling themselves. He said, but here's the kicker. He said Democrats cannot win this culture war and cannot win this battle unless they destabilize America. And he says, I think the EBT situation, I think the shutdowns, and I think the more that they try to destabilize, it actually makes the Republicans weaker, and it actually makes communists stronger. Wait till you hear the story of this attorney who knows DC in and out and says, I know all these guys, I know their plays. We're going to discuss that because I believe you're starting to see a civil unrest and destabilization of America. And sadly, the right is eating their own and the left is pretty much taking advantage of it. We'll go a little bit further on the right eating their own. Heritage came out in full support of Tucker Carlson. At the same time, they're saying their views as Christian views and how they believe in morals and believe in values. The sad thing is, this is going to become a major problem in the conservative movement. No one wants to address it. I do love what J.D. Vance said. Again, we don't have enough politicians willing to speak honestly. Now, I'm not saying J.D. Vance is perfect, but when he was at Ole Miss in Mississippi, he stated that the Christian faith is the foundation, that Jesus is the foundation. How many politicians have you actually heard say that? Most of them will use the term God, or most of them will say my faith, but they never actually talk about Christianity and how he longed for his wife to be saved. He longed for his children to be raised this way. This is what we need to hear. And sadly, while they're trying to stay above the fray, they try to stay away from it. The Tucker Fuentes and the issues that are battling the right is going to cause for problems, I think, for Trump and Vance. And then lastly, have you heard UN talk about the Sudan and Nigeria? Have you heard Greta Thunberg go to Sudan and Nigeria? Have you heard that all these countries are so upset of what they're seeing in Sudan and Nigeria? No, because it doesn't fit their narrative. It's amazing when Israel is doing conflict. Everybody's up in arms. Everybody wants to send us a boat over there. Everybody wants to, disavow them. However, when the Islamists are absolutely terrorizing and murdering people in Nigeria and Sudan, isn't it amazing how we have a double standard when it comes to Christians being attacked, but not Islam? This world is falling to pieces. Let's talk about all these things today and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. It means the world to us when you share our content. It means the world to us when you comment. And if you're subscribed, remember you are entered into a giveaway each and every month. We're doing a giveaway for the month of October tomorrow. We always give you one more day. So if you are not subscribed, please go get subscribed. That way you could be entered into the giveaway. Also, we do a giveaway on Facebook and Twitter. So if you are subscribed to Facebook and Twitter, you will also be entered into another giveaway. So you have a chance to win twice. So make sure you are subscribed and follow me on those platforms. Now, let's jump into the stories of the day because that is why you're here. First, let's talk about this military movement. Now, there's been a story, and it came out a few days ago, but no one's really talked about it. But I think we need to discuss it. There's a new story coming out of the Atlantic and also the Guardian. It says, top Trump officials are moving onto military bases. It says that the violence has gotten so bad against the Trump administration and also some of the top officials like Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, and also Pete Hegseth that they are going to be moving them towards military bases. Now, when you first hear this, you're like, why? I wonder why they're moving them to a military base. You're like, well, it's probably because of civil unrest. Yeah, but there's probably more to it. I want you to think about this. Why else would all the top leadership in this cabinet be moving to one simple military base? Do they know something that we don't know? I come back to the civil unrest and destabilization we're fixing to get into with what Larry Klayman just said, but If we know something is coming and we know how bad something is, then it would be smart to make sure that we have the key people and key persons of this administration placed in a very safe place. Now, I don't know how good that is or bad that is for the rest of us because we're not in those military bases, but I do think it's very odd that they may know something that we don't know. That why in the world are they moving all these people towards safe havens? Now, the president and vice president, they have their own compounds and they're safe observatories such as Vance, but to then move all the other top officials to military bases, I think there's more to this story. We need to pay attention to this. And this kind of goes into what we were talking about with the attorney in the intro. Larry Klayman came out, and if you haven't watched Larry Klayman or read some of his stuff, he's a pretty smart guy. This is from the USA Watchdog. It says, Klayman warns they realize the only way to control the society is to destabilize it. He says, just as predicted months ago, the renowned attorney Larry Klayman, the left continues to ramp up violence against ICE because he knows that when they start deporting illegal immigrants, it hurts their numbers for the Democrats. Also, he says what Trump is doing, even though we don't want to give him credit, he's actually winning. And he says the only way the Democrats can win is they destabilize and have civil unrest in America. He says that's exactly what's happening with the shutdowns. That's exactly what's happening with EBT. That's exactly what's happening with this whole push against the riots and protests against this conservative base, this conservative Trump administration. He's saying what they have to have is destabilization. He said on top of that, what about the Republicans, the rhinos, who are part of the establishment too? He says they know they have to have destabilization too. The story goes on and it talks about how the more that they destabilize, the more they have civil unrest, the more people will look to the government to fix their problems, even though they're the ones causing the issue. He said what people don't realize is a lot of the right is not infected as much as the left when it comes to EBT. But for some reason, the left and the people who are on EBT will blame the Trump administration instead of absolutely blaming the Democrats. He said not only that, the Democrats are pushing not to help these people out of poverty, it's helping them to stay into poverty. See, this is what we don't realize. When we become dependent on the government to fix our problems, then when we become dependent, then it helps us know that, well, no matter who started the problem, we're always going to look to government to be the solution. What we don't realize is the Democrats and the establishment and the government are a lot of the root of the problems that we face here in America. You talk about the inflation, you talk about the interest, you talk about the debts. All those things are caused by the government and caused by the Senate and Congress. However, we still look to them to fix our problems. How many times have you seen on all the platforms and influencing that everybody looks to the government to fix their problems? Well, see, I'm the exact opposite. I think we should be looking to our families, to our churches, to our communities to start solving our problems again. This is a great opportunity for the church and for food banks to help serve and say, you know what, we don't need government in EBT. We can help people just the way we are. We can serve people. We can take care of the widows and children. We can make sure that people are safe. This is a time where truly the church should embrace on this Halloween time, which I don't support. But what I'm saying is right now you're probably going to see tons of trick-or-treaters, tons of trunk-or-treats at churches, tons of times where people are going to come out and get candy. Tomorrow is going to be a time where 42 million Americans lose out on their benefits. What if that church could make connections tonight and tomorrow and say, you know what, when times get tough, why don't you run to us? And maybe the church can not blame the government. The church can become the community access point that it should have been, the asset to the community, to not only give a solution to the problem, but then become the bigger solution to the whole problem, that we need God, and that the church could be exactly what it's supposed to be and not the government. Now let's go back to what Larry Klayman said. He says, we need destabilization for the Democrats to rule. If you wonder why scammers are always getting your phone number, why you have so much spam in your inbox, well, this is why. Your data has been compromised, meaning there's data brokers out there, and what they're doing is getting your information and turn around and selling it to maybe some salespeople, but maybe some bad players. The crazy thing is they do it without your consent. They give all your information to all these places, and it makes you vulnerable. And you know what? You actually can call hundreds of companies, thousands of companies, and tell them you don't want your information shared on the World Wide Web. But guess what? It's kind of hard and time consuming. That's why today's sponsor, Aura, is the game changer for you and your safety with your data online. Everything that we do is online now, so the last thing I want to do is try to go and find out who's got my information that shouldn't have it. That's why we recommend Aura. Aura does all the hard part. Aura goes in and they start taking your information automatically off and taking it away from some of the more compromised places, the vulnerable places. I kid you not. My inbox, my phone has been completely cleaned up, and I don't have to worry about all these crazy calls and all these insurance salesmen and all these apps tracking me all the time. Because Aura is there to help. Aura also is so much more. Aura is all-in-one digital security. They do 5 things extremely well. They send you alerts if all of a sudden they find your personal information on the dark web. Real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking apps. And also if your information has been compromised. 24/7 monitoring. This is the biggest. Because I promise you, the people that are probably stealing your information, they're probably not doing it during the day era. What if it's through the night? 24/7 monitoring from Aura. A secure VPN, antivirus and password manager, and so much more. A US-based support. Available around the clock. So if something goes wrong, you can reach out to them and they're right there to help you. Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance. At night when I lock my doors before we go to bed, I don't want to lock just the front and leave the back open. Aura is all in one, so that way it's protecting you all online. If I sleep at night and I physically protect my home, what about making sure that I'm digitally protecting my information? Check with Aura today, aura.com/themacs. Get 14 days free by using that link. You want a peace of mind when you sleep? Aura can give you that. Aura.com/themacs. Check them out. Now let's go to what Heritage just came out and said. Heritage Foundation, who I actually like, who I supported, who, was part of the Project 2025, who has been the conservative juggernaut really over the last 10, 20, 30 years, now has come out in support of Tucker Carlson. Now, they're big supporters of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson's, I think, a senior fellow there, or was. But the thing is, they talked about how the leader of Heritage came out in support of him and said that we like hearing ideas. However, then come back and blaspheme the people that were on the opposite side. I think what we're seeing with the conservative movement, this is playing right into the Democrats' hand in the destabilization. If all of a sudden you have someone winning at the top, they're standing at the top, winning at the top, people like Trump and Vance, who are dominating right now, but their whole base is struggling, the foundation of who they are is struggling, then it's going to topple their good things. And I think that's what you're seeing. For the longest, Tucker Carlson and people like him, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, they may have been against the president in some things, but pretty much they stood for him and they went against the left. See, I keep saying this every day, but it's like, instead of us infighting, why don't we just target the left? I want you to listen to what just happened in Minnesota. And again, we talk about Mamdani, but we lose out on the fact of what's actually happening in Minnesota. Omar Fattah waves a foreign flag, speaks foreign language, and pledges his loyalty to Somalia. Tells Somalians to elect him to be the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota, because he believes this is the future and that they're going to be a little Somalia. Now, he will get elected, just like Zohran Mamdani in New York. See, this is what happens. When you have infighting in the right, instead of focusing on what we should be focused on, here's what we're doing. We're allowing the left to win. And not only the left, the overblown leftist, communist, socialist Islam movement. This man gets up, speaks in Somalian, waves a Somalian flag, says he is loyal to Somalia. And he says that's why he should be elected an American mayor of one of the biggest cities. See, Tucker and Fuentes should stop focusing on each other and focusing on our base and focusing on conservatism and start putting their eyes back on the main prize, which is beating the left. But instead, they're destroying ourselves. We're destroying ourselves. And Heritage Foundation didn't do anything but take a big loss here. They shouldn't even came out and said anything. The sad thing is if you look at what we consider the conservative movement, traditional conservatives, you're not going to hear us curse. We're not going to curse. We believe in a Christian view of America. We believe America first populism, yes, but we also have a Christian outlook on the world, knowing that there is a place for Israel in the end times, knowing that we as Christians want to see revival and reawakening, knowing that we want to see traditional views back in America, but truthfully knowing that America, like most countries, will fall by the wayside because, biblically, we end up doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Now, the woke right view, which is now the people like Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people They say they're America First, Fuentes and all them. But they're not. They're a Christless right. They're not a conservative Christian right. You know why? Because like the Hodge twins, like Bilzerian, like Fuentes, like Carlson, like all these people, if you listen to them, all they do is speak derogatory towards Christianity, towards the support of Israel. They always curse a lot. And that doesn't make them a non-Christian, but it does make them speak volumes of who they really are. You know, like the Hodge twins. I loved the Hodge twins when they were poking fun at the right, when they were poking fun at the left. But now all these people, instead of helping the right movement and seeing MAGA first, or seeing America first, or seeing us going together to target the left and going after Fatah and after Mandani, we're going after each other. The Owen Schroyers, the Alex Jones, all these people have become really a virus to the right. Now you may disagree, but mark my words, bookmark this video. You're going to see the right destroy itself and implode because we allow for the establishment people like McConnell and Collins and Murkowski to destroy the party and become the establishment once again, the bored rhinos. Then we see the Trump and Vance and growth that we once had, and see just going crazy and doing great things, to then be imploded because its base can't get along. It's so sad. It is so sad to see what's happening on the right. And like Larry Klayman said, destabilization and unrest actually benefits the left, because then the problem ends up being government, but they don't look at it that way. They look at it as, well, government's also going to be the solution, so then they look for bigger government. I love what this guy said. There was a guy that was being interviewed, and he was a journalist. He said, what Mamdani has done is spoke to the left in their pocketbooks. He said, now, all the stuff that he's saying won't come true. It will destroy New York City. He said, but see, he's given, quote-unquote, hope. Hope that everything is going to get better. Hope that they're going to make a lot of money and be free and everything's going to be free. He said he's speaking to them. It doesn't matter if it's utopian. He said it'll probably end up being dystopian. He said, but he's speaking to them on their level. He said what conservatives are doing is they're eating their own and speaking above the people instead of speaking to the pocketbook. He said populism will win out. It's just, is it going to be right wing or left wing? He said, sadly, even though we say Trump is winning, it's like one guy said yesterday. He said, when Trump is gone, who is going to be the leader of this party and who can control it? Who's going to hold it together? He said, like Charlie. Charlie held this coalition together. He's after Charlie. It seems like it's imploding. He said Trump and Vance should speak to this and not stray away from it. They should call out a movement to get together and start talking conservative again and start fighting the real battles versus the left, or we're going to lose it. Now let's go to the last thing I want to bring up. And this is where J.D. Vance is speaking about his Christian views and also how the Christian views around the world are getting destroyed. Now, J.D. Vance comes out and states this, and I thought this was just so good. Now, again, I don't know where J.D. Vance is. There's times that he curses and says things he shouldn't say, but never have I ever heard a politician since J.D. Vance and Trump to actually be open with the name Jesus. And I think that's amazing. Vance calls out skeptics of Christianity. Foundation of this country is Christian views. He said, this comes out of where he was speaking at Ole Miss. He says, it says, J.D. Vance, Vice President, put on absolute clinic to TPUSA, saying that to these 10,000 attendees that there is no question that Christianity is the values that America needs. He even hopes that his wife will become saved and a Christian. He's raising his children Christian. He says that without Christianity, there will be no foundation here. Now, that is truth. No one wants to admit to it. The woke right doesn't want to admit to it. Everybody wants to just act like it's not a big deal. But you know what? Without Christianity, we wouldn't have the Constitution. Without Christianity, we wouldn't have the Puritans that actually made the first settlements here in America. You can decline it and you can say all these other things, but that is the truth. Christianity is the basis of America. And we're starting to lose that because the right is eating its own, and all of a sudden we're allowing Islam to rule over these biggest cities in America, Minneapolis and New York City. And it's going to keep on happening because, again, the right is tearing itself up. But I want you to listen to what's happening across the world, because this is what we're going to see in America if we're not careful. Now, we talk about Nigeria. Nigeria, there is murder upon murder I mean, they said there's mass casualty events taking place, and they're having to bury hundreds of people a day. Churches are burning daily by Islamists. I don't see Greta Thunberg. I don't see the UN. I don't see none of them over there. Do you? Did you know that UN got held captive by the Houthi? But no, they'll support the Muslim faith, but won't support the Israel or Christian faith. And right now, UN, there's about 30 UN that's been held captive by a terror group called the Houthi that is Islamist. I want you to listen to this story coming now out of Sudan. In Sudan, Arab Islamist gangs are kidnapping and rounding up black Christian women and children into slavery. Over 3,000 have been taken and ceased to exist. Their life has been taken in the last few days. It says, where's the UN? Where's Palestinian protest groups? Where's all the protests happening in the streets of the cities? Where's BLM? Where's the human rights activists? It says this is African American children. This is African children, black children, Christians. But you see no thoughts about it, have you? See, this is the double standard I tell you about. This is why the Christian movement is starting to sadly pass away. And I believe that you're starting to see a post-Christian America because you don't see the outrage in the streets over this. Now, we'll protest and go crazy over the Palestinian movement. We'll protest and go crazy over BLM, but we won't do anything for the Christians. We have a leader who is willing to call the problems and saying we need to turn back to God, like J.D. Vance is saying. And the right, instead of saying, hey, that's a good thing, we should turn back to God and work together. Even though we don't get along with everything, we should turn back to God. No, they just want to eat themselves and cause problems and implode. Let's go back to what was said. Trump is moving his main officials all to military bases. That's got to be for a reason. Larry Klayman says that the destabilization is taking place, and that's exactly what plays in the hands of the left. Civil unrest is coming. Problems are coming. Tomorrow is going to be a problem because you're going to see problems happen and protests happen. You wait, it's coming. And they'll blame Trump, they'll blame Republicans, and instead of Republicans standing together to turn it back to Democrats, they'll keep on infighting. And there you'll see a topple of what Trump is doing. I want to ask yourself, what other leader of America has went across the world and as many chances and problems that Trump has faced and has gotten trade deals to benefit America? Name one other leader that we've had that's worked as hard as he has to make money come into America as Trump has in the last 6 weeks. None. But you know what? What's happening back at home is he's seeing the destruction of his own party based on people that he considered friends. And they're literally destroying his movement. Pay attention to the story. This is a big deal. And I think that we do have something big happening. The question is, are we ready to face it? Are you ready? Because it's coming. Let me know your thoughts on it today. God bless.